Welcome to Alberta Conservation Association's Harvest Your Own podcast, the resource for everything hunting, navigating through the field, the butcher shop, and the kitchen. Life is all about great food. Let's get started.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Brad Fenson, an avid outdoor enthusiast who has worked as a freelance journalist, photographer, and public speaker for over 3 decades. I have hunted, fished, and foraged all my life and hope to share my passion for the outdoors. Along the way, I want to encourage everyone to harvest wild proteins and enjoy the satisfaction of providing the next meal for your family. Our goal is to educate, entertain, and inspire individuals to get outdoors and create a connection between food, health, and your future meals. Welcome to Harvest Your Own. Today we have Alberta's luckiest hunter. Not only does he hunt, but he's an angler, more importantly, a father, a family man, a wild game cook, and one of the last people in Alberta to hunt mountain goat. Matt Leriger, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be with you, Brad.
We say lucky, but you really did win the Alberta lottery when you drew a mountain goat tag.
Yeah, definitely. It was certainly a shock for me. I think looking back at the draw odds, it was somewhere in the 0.07% range or thereabouts. It seemed like it was slim to none.
You know, I tell people that when we did have a mountain goat season, because they don't have it this year, but the odds of drawing are as close to zero as you can get.
Yeah, definitely. It was down to 3 tags for the entire province the season that I drew.
Right. So what was, like, I can only imagine. I don't know if you picked up your phone, logged into the computer, but you go onto Realm and you're checking and you see mountain goat drawn. Like, what was your reaction?
I was shocked. I was completely dumbfounded. Me and my wife and son were at the stallery just going in for an appointment. My son's diabetic. Right. And we were there for an appointment, and I decided it was time to check my draws. And usually our draw system is fairly predictable, but I expected we were going to draw mule deer bucks that year, me and my dad. And so I opened it up and I seen goats successful, and I checked it 7 or 8 more times. And
log out, log in, check it again.
Sunk in, and there it was. And my son was over the moon, excited for me. My wife didn't register. She's not much of a hunter, but it didn't register with her the gravity of it, I guess, and just how special that was. But it was definitely a shock. I'm still shocked a couple years later.
Did you find it hard to focus on anything for a little while? Like, your mind just wanders?
Yeah, well, we were actually at an information session that day. My son was getting set up with an insulin pump to help control his diabetes, and trying to take all that in while trying to process what was going on and maybe sneak a little time in on my phone to start planning. Right. It was definitely I was in shock for quite a while.
You know, it just goes to show you, some people say, I'll never enter that draw because really I don't have a chance of drawing, but somebody has to get drawn.
People do every year. Someone's got to win it.
That's right.
Definitely. I like I say, I was still in shock. I think even to the point where I was out hunting, I was still checking just to make sure.
Let's step back a few years. How did you get started in hunting?
I come from a family of outdoors people. I guess just like most people, growing up in the Northern Boreal, I live in Athabasca. We've traveled around a little bit, but mostly through Northern Alberta. Just grew up following around, Dad dragging me around the province, hunting grouse. Started out with grouse and rabbits and fishing, and just spending time in tow with my dad and my uncle and different family members.
Sounds an awful lot like how I got started, and probably a lot of other people in the outdoors. I think the first thing I ever shot was a grouse, and it's the right critter. It'll stand there and look at you and give you a chance. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, we're flush with snowshoe hair, and we did a lot of that, and still do with my kids now. Yeah. And then following them around on deer hunts and moose and all the rest. So.
And it led to the mountain goat, but the tie there is family. your dad took the time, your uncles, to always make sure you got out. And I know your mom's very outdoorsy too. And, if anyone's going to catch the big fish while reading a book or not paying attention, it's going to be your mom.
Yep. Yeah. 100% of the time.
And she loves it that way.
Yeah.
It kind of irks everybody else that is, read in depth and done all the homework and bought the special lure. And
yeah, she'll have her reel on backwards and and half tangled up and always seem to come through.
Yeah. That's what I appreciate about her. And I wish I could rub some of that luck off once in a while.
Yeah. Don't we all?
Now your kids, where are they at? Are they outdoorsy?
Yeah, all three of them. I have two boys and a girl, and they're all avid outdoors people. They, like I say, we live in Athabasca. We're on an acreage. We got a bit of room to roam around, so they're out there chasing bunnies and grouse and learning to observe things. And yeah, they're always looking out the window, helping me check for this and that. So they're definitely they caught the bug for sure.
Well, if I know things correctly, your little gal is quite a live wire.
She is, yeah. That's an understatement, yeah.
Right? And we have one of those too. Go until you drop over and sleep and get up and start it all over again. And if it weren't for the outdoors, I think it would drive us crazy because that's her special place. As long as she's outdoors, she can burn off all that extra energy she has. So
yeah, we got awfully lucky. We moved out of town to an acreage just months before the COVID lockdown started. So that was a real godsend for us having some room to separate for a little bit of time, and they can go blow off some steam, climb trees, do what they need to do.
So the reason I tie in the family stuff is because you won the lottery, you're getting ready for the goat hunt, but then you ran into some other family snags, we'll call them.
Yeah, just a short time before getting going, my wife she fell ill after a trip. We were camping out west of Hinton, and she started getting sick, and we got home, and it wasn't too bad that it wasn't manageable. So I went off to work. I work out of town. And she phoned a few days later, and she had gotten really ill, and things were getting worse and worse as time went on. She ended up being admitted to the U of A with Guillain-Barré syndrome is the name of it. It's a fairly rare disease, just about as rare as drawing a goat.
Right.
But and she she started falling apart pretty quick. It progressed fast, and she wasn't able to walk or eat, feeding tube and all the rest. And she was hospitalized for quite a while. So that definitely put a bit of a dampener on things. It wasn't looking great for us, for my chances of being able to go, but that certainly wasn't the concern at that time. That definitely put a bit of a scare into us.
Right. And, it's odd that you win a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to hunt mountain goat in Alberta, and all of a sudden it doesn't seem important.
Yeah, absolutely. I had started gearing up for my trip just previous to that, and it came in handy because I was camping out on the floor of a hospital.
Right.
As she was going through what she was, and we were... we were instead of going out for hikes and trying to get myself into shape, we were pushing her around in a wheelchair and trying to figure out what our future was going to look like.
Right, and so thank goodness she came through things.
Yeah, she made a really miraculous recovery. It's a rare disease to begin with, but she actually had a rare strain of it that she was able to bounce back quite a bit quicker than some people in the same predicament. So she started making a recovery, a turnaround within a few weeks, and it came back, and she was able to get back home and make a full recovery in fairly short order as far as that disease goes.
Right. So this story is such a good story because you have elation, you have the things that we fear most in life, and everything starts working out. But back to the family thing, mom's now home, feeling good enough, and I don't know if it was she gave you the green light or you asked, but
yeah, she was, she's a very motivated person, and she was getting herself back into good shape, and she didn't. she didn't want to see me miss out. She knew how important that opportunity was to me. So she, and mom and dad as well, they pitched in an awful lot, looking after the kids for us and helping us out that way. But she was more than happy to, and glad she was back into some kind of shape that she could be back at home and on her own. That it wasn't an issue, certainly.
Right. So you were able to get down and do some spotting. I remember seeing some photos and stuff. And you had the kids with you.
Yeah.
Back to the family,
Yeah. No, at that point, everybody needed a bit of a break. So I loaded up the kids, left Stacy at home. She was able to get some rest, and we went down and did some scouting. I'd never hunted in the area, just passed through in the past. So I just wanted to familiarize myself with the landscape and where I was going to be at. And so the goat zones, it's not the entire WMU. So I was able to get a map of the area that I was going to be hunting and figure out the boundaries and just kind of the outline. It wasn't, with 3 young kids in tow, it's tough to do any kind of quality scouting in the mountains for sure. We did the best we could, spent a few days. They got to stay in a hotel in Blairmore, so they were happy to be able to do that and hang out with Dad. So it was definitely a good experience for everybody. It wasn't overly productive as far as scouting trips go, but we had an awful lot of fun.
You climbed some of the hills, not the real steep ones. Glassed a lot of mountains.
Yeah.
Did you actually see any goats on the first trip
Didn't
down?
see any goats. Lots of bears, some elk, some sheep, and was able to chat with a few folks from the area that were more than helpful and more than happy to help out. So
right.
Yeah.
Never be afraid to ask.
Absolutely. Well, especially when you're the only one in the zone with a tag, it's you definitely have a little more luck getting people to point you in the right direction and help you out.
This podcast is produced for Harvest Your Own, a program dedicated to those who want to reconnect with food and health through their experiences outdoors. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a resource for individuals to learn more about hunting and the outdoors. There's information to get you started and ensure that your compass stays pointed in the right direction to be successful. Where's your next meal coming from?
Now, did you only get down the one time to actually do any spotting?
Just the one time, yeah. Just for a few days over a weekend. I had burned up all my vacation at work when we were staying in the hospital and looking after things. So we just got down for a long weekend and spent a few days out there. And with travel from home, it was a long ways away down to the crow's nest. But we just the one trip down, and then when it was finally time to go, we decided we'd take a little vacation. We loaded everybody up and went down to Montana for a few days because we had never done that and wanted to, and went and hung out down in Missoula for a few days, and then came back up, and Mom and the kids kicked me out on the way, and I went goat hunting. So
sweet. Yeah, anyone that is listening, if you ever wanted to hunt anything in Alberta, really, don't be afraid to tackle it. I mean, there's always a way to figure it out, and you are a great example of, you go down and spot with the kids and you make it work. You find the time, you talk to locals, you got the maps, and you didn't worry about what the outcome was because it was all a learning process and it was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely made the best of it, and it was a good lesson for me, a good lesson for everybody that we let a lot of things hold us back and make a lot of excuses for ourselves. But if you're not spending the time out there, even if you're not underprepared, but if you're unsure, you have a 0% chance of getting it done from home.
Exactly. All right, the big day comes along, opening day.
Yeah, so I got out a couple days early. I wanted to get out as early as I could, and just start getting boots in the hills and glassing and getting the lay of the land. There was lots of guys out starting elk hunt at the same time, so I was able to just spitball with a few of those guys and talk about what they're seeing, what I'm seeing, and got set up where I had a sort of an idea based on the survey data. I was able to talk to the biologists in the area and talk to them about the most recent survey and see where they were seeing them. which sometimes correlates with hunting season, sometimes doesn't.
Right.
In this case, it didn't as much. But so I, got set up in a spot that that worked for. I was able to get access to a lot of the area from there, and just started burning boot leather. And
still, season hasn't opened. But have you seen a goat yet?
No. I didn't see a lot in the way of goats. Some other guys were, but there wasn't much. I wasn't seeing a whole lot, which is a little discouraging, I guess, but just kept trying different drainages, different little pieces of the zone, and try and get eyes on as much of it as I could. But I wasn't seeing as many as I had, I'd expected to, I guess, right off the bat.
Right. But they're there. Stay focused. Unique opportunity. Don't let it get you down. This is hunting no matter what you do, right?
Absolutely. I mean, no different than the last moose hunt we went on. We didn't see a bull until the last day, which is the way it goes often, right? So,
right. I often describe moose hunting as days of boredom followed by seconds of excitement and chaos followed by work.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess you get excited talking to other people about what they had been seeing through the summer, and then the survey data, you see the numbers and expect that there's going to be a lot in the area. And, a goat is a fairly visible animal, you would think. So you start thinking, well, if they're here, I should be seeing them. I had good optics. And putting the time in, but just wasn't seeing them. But, kept my spirits up. I knew I was going to get a chance. But, yeah, you definitely, when you're getting into towards the end of the trip, and I knew that was my one shot, and being a once in a lifetime opportunity, you get nervous. Definitely starting to get desperate towards the end of the trip for sure.
So I'm not sure what day you shot it. Opening day comes along. You're in the mountains. How many days did you hunt before you found a goat?
I was there, I think, it was close to a week, 6 or 7 days before I put eyes on one. Yeah.
And walk us through it. What happened?
So I was just going up into, it was, one of the last trails up into the hills that I hadn't been up, and I ran into some elk hunters the day before that said that they thought they had seen some way up in the hills out there. So I thought, okay, well, that's promising. I'll go check it out and see what I can see. And I was quite a few miles away, and I just when I first got a glimpse of the mountain range, or the piece of the hill that I was coming up on, I stopped and glassed and had my lunch, and I seen what looked like from an awful distance, what looked like a couple of goats. So definitely got a boost of motivation and lead-footed it in there, and I found two billies traveling together, a young one and an old one. And got as close as I could, but got busted. They certainly don't bust like a whitetail does. They just kind of sauntered up into the cliffs and knew they were safe from below. And so I was able to. I made my retreat and started making a plan for the next day. And came back in, took a different route, and I was able to connect with the bigger of the two billies. And it went very well. I got in early, which was a blessing because I was by myself, and so the breaking it down and packing it out was going to take a while. I used all the daylight that I had and then some. So yeah, it couldn't have gone any better, to be honest.
And if anyone that's been to Harvest Your Own knows that there's lots of information about how to deal with an animal once it hits the ground.
This podcast was made possible by Alberta Conservation Association and the Harvest Your Own community. If you're interested in harvesting your own food, there's a comprehensive collection of information to gain insight and knowledge. Head to the field, harvest your own protein, prepare it, and taste the results. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a library of information from getting started and geared up to processing, butchering, and cooking wild game to make the connection between health and food.
So, success comes. It's a big mountain goat. You spent a week hunting it. There is a lot of work involved.
Yeah, it was a pile of work. They're not a small animal. They're not moose big for sure, but they're built. They're sinewy. They're
tough.
They're tough. And even taking it down, it took a while. It was they got a reputation for being tough, and this one certainly was. It was an old goat. And I was breaking it down. I wanted to get a life-size mount done, and that's something I've never skinned for a life-size. So that presents a different set of challenges. I had done some research before and made sure and talked to my taxidermist about what he wanted to see if I was successful. Takes a lot of time, especially when you're by yourself on a steep hillside in the rocks. It's a completely different thing than, say, caping out an antelope in the plains.
Right. So how many trips did it take to get the mountain goat off the mountain?
Took 2 trips out, 2 heavy trips.
Heavy trips.
Yeah. It was, I hung half of it in the trees for the night and took half of it out, and then came back early the next morning for the next half. They were heavy packs, long ways, and a few tumbles up and down the mountain, but got it out safely. So. And
you did it all on your own?
Yeah, you betcha.
Yeah. That's got to be a very satisfying feeling when you're done.
It definitely was. We had hoped that Dad was going to be able to come with me initially, but he had a previous injury that had flared up and was having some trouble, so he wasn't able to come. So I kind of decided at that point there was lots of people. There was more than enough people that were more than happy to come and help me out or come and experience it with me. But I thought, it was something that I'd like to try and pull off on my own if I could. And it was hard, but got it done, and I'm glad I was able to.
Tell me, what did you have in your pack to be prepared to harvest a mountain goat and get your pack filled, hang some of it in the trees, and come back the next day and get it all out so that basically the entire animal got home safe and sound?
Yeah, so I put together, I slimmed my gear down a lot. It's a different kind of hunting than I've ever been used to. Going up and down the hills is a little bit different than trotting out into the bush on flat ground. So I put together a really good kit for skinning with some lightweight knives, lightweight game bags, the reusable game bags, which before I used the disposable ones, I really like. I bought a set of game bags. They were fantastic, and they held up with some paracord. I hung them up in the trees. Did some research, a lot of research beforehand about game care in that kind of a situation, because where I'm from, generally in the kind of hunting I've always done, generally you're not leaving meat out in the field. So it posed its own set of challenges for sure. So yeah, I hung it up in the trees. I bought myself a really good lightweight pack that was a little better rated for weight. It had a meat shelf in it and that kind of stuff, which is something that I didn't have before, and it was a real game changer for me. I sold some gear and borrowed from people I knew, and just to slim down the weight for sure, and bought some higher quality stuff than I had before, just to make sure that it went smoothly.
Sizing down is very important when you're in mountain hunting. If people out there are thinking about doing it, 5 extra pounds in your pack takes its toll on your knees for every step that you take, and you take a lot of steps in a day. Yeah,
absolutely. And a lot of times I think if you dump your pack out before a season, you can lose a lot of pounds just in gimmicks. As hunters, I think we're collectors and we're gearheads, and you talk yourself into sometimes bringing this, that, and the other thing, and the kitchen sink. And when you really, you can live off your back for a long time off of just what's in your pack, if you pare it down. And it definitely made it more enjoyable, slimming that pack down as best I could.
It's an art and a science. I remember one of the first mountain hunts I did with a friend of mine. He said, "Let's see what's in your pack." And I pulled it out, and he just destroyed what I packed. He said, "You don't need that, you don't need that, you don't need that, you don't need that." And I probably took like 18 pounds out of my pack, which I was a little bit disgruntled at first, but boy, when we were in the mountains, I was glad that he did that. I had everything I needed. We were able to be successful, get everything out. I even had a change of clothes, all the rest of it. But there's a lot of stuff I thought was important that really wasn't important.
Well, and a lot of the comfort items, I think that you talk yourself into bringing, they cause you more discomfort than they're worth in the end, with your back screaming at you and your feet aching. For sure.
And I'm sure glassing is for any mountain game, that's the biggest part of it. You don't want to climb to the top of every mountain to look for something. You want to use good optics and get a vantage point and spend more time spotting than you actually do hunting.
Yeah, I've always put a big premium on quality optics for sure. I inherited that from my dad. He's always had a good set of binoculars on his chest, and when I talk to new hunters, for sure, that's one of the first things when they're talking about what kind of gear they need to prioritize. I usually point them towards a good set of binoculars. I bought a really good spotting scope, because where I'm at, again, it's not a spotting scope isn't something I use a lot of at home. I mean, a lot of the bush that I hunt in, you can't see 10 feet in. So, a fancy spotting scope isn't going to do you a lot of good. But there, in that situation, it saved me a lot of miles that I didn't need to walk, for sure.
So the whole concept of having you in for an episode on Harvest Your Own was to talk about opportunities in Alberta and the mountain goat. But really, I wanted to use this talk as a motivation for people that are thinking about getting into hunting or thinking about taking on the challenge of a new species. Maybe there's a first-time hunter out there that's gone out and shot some ducks or some grouse, and they're saying, "Ooh, I'd really like to try, a moose or an elk, but they're so big, they're intimidating." And Matt, you're a really good example of, if you want to do it, you can research it, you can determine how to be successful, and then get out there and do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great information. The internet's an interesting thing. It has all of the best and worst information you can get.
Exactly.
You need to learn how to separate the wheat from the chaff a little bit, but get on, do your research. It's again, sitting at home, you have zero opportunity of getting anything done. The first thing I always tell new hunters is to learn the draw system. We got such a breadth of opportunities in Alberta to hunt all different manner of things. Don't wait until you decide you wanna hunt an antelope to start putting in for an antelope. Put in for it's a nominal fee that goes to good things. Put in for all the draws you can, and then when you we have the priority only system that you can apply for in Alberta. Learn that draw system. Start putting in today. And then when you're ready for that opportunity, you can jump in both feet first. Start doing your research and, be a student of the environment around you. Keep your eyes open in your travels and learn a little bit about the different landscapes. And then you shouldn't be scared. Don't let anything hold you back. I mean, I put a high premium on my gear, but I think that's a trap that a lot of us fall into, is especially something like mountain hunting per se. I mean, you don't want to go into it haphazardly and unprepared, but don't tell yourself that because you don't have this or you don't have that. Get the best gear you can with the dollars that you have, make it go as far as you can, and don't let those things hold you back. Just get out there and experience it.
Absolutely. And there's people that'll lend you gear. You can buy secondhand. There's ways to do it if you really want to make it happen. But you had some really good advice there about putting in for the draws. Several years ago, my wife took up hunting, and she said to me, "I really like elk. It's my favorite, but I don't want to shoot the ones with antlers." I'm like, perfect. So she puts in for cow elk, but I also started to put her in for mule deer and moose and antelope, and she said, I'm not interested in that. But here we are 8 years later. She's like, I think I'd like to hunt a mule deer. Perfect. We're building priority. She should be able to draw one now within a year or two. And even though she didn't think she wanted to do that 8 years ago, it's certainly on the radar now. So that's very good advice for anyone getting into hunting and getting started. When that overwhelms you and you've got that feeling like, I want to try a mule deer, I want to try antelope, it doesn't mean you're going to get a license right away. So put in for it whether you think you want to hunt it or not, because like antelope could take you 15 years to get drawn.
Yeah.
A lot can happen in 15 years. You can develop as a hunter. You can want to take on new things. You can want to try new proteins and meats and stuff. And then you have the opportunity to. And if you don't, well, you've supported conservation and built some priority in a draw.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, with antelope, say, in particular, and there's a few draws that are the same way, that's the biggest shame about that is it's so long between hunts, because antelope is fantastic. Table fare, they're a blast to hunt, and you get to see some different country for folks like us from a different different area, but there's you can put in for archery and non-trophy tags at the same time, and stagger your hunts so you get the opportunities aren't so far between. I think that really becoming a student of that draw system, it's fairly predictable. You can plan out year after year to be able to do something new and exciting for sure. So it's that's the biggest advice I give to new hunters for sure.
Well, that's great advice. Anything else you want to share with first-time hunters or hunters considering tackling something new?
In hunting culture, we put a big premium on people talk about deer camp and moose camp, and we there's always a family aspect to it and camaraderie and stuff like that, and that's great. But we kind of get stuck in a lane a lot of times, and we got so many opportunities in Alberta. Not that there's anything wrong with those deer camps or the moose camps and the things that we've done year after year. You don't want it to get stale, and you don't want to be stuck doing the same thing year after year. We got so many opportunities and so many different landscapes to explore, and make it an adventure year after year. Do your best to still do those things and experience that camaraderie and whatnot. But get out and try something different, and it'll make you a better hunter overall. Try different things and chase different critters, and it'll never get old. You'll never tire of it.
Yeah, I know that you've actually created a list, I think, with your dad about, we're going to hunt mule deer on the prairie, then we're going to hunt elk in the foothills, or, picking the different habitats in Alberta and targeting your draws and opportunities to see the whole province, experience different things, and get out to enjoy everything that there is to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm lucky enough I get to travel around for work a little bit. I work in powerline construction, so we're all over the province. So I get to see these different landscapes, and everywhere, every drive you go on, every minute of every day is a scouting opportunity. You get to see and learn a little bit about, I know that this corner of the province is prairie parkland, or this is northern boreal, this is the foothills, and you kind of got an idea. You can go and you learn to go into an area blind without having experience there, but you got a pretty good idea of what you're walking into.
A hunter never quits hunting. So if you're like me, if you're driving anywhere in the province, you're scanning the landscape as much as you are keeping your eyes dead center of the road. So
yeah, absolutely.
We're always looking for wildlife, unique features, and different things, and that's it makes every journey unique.
You betcha.
One last question for you. You probably know I asked this, but what's your favorite wild game recipe?
Oh boy, there's so many. I'm really partial to the last antelopes that we took. Antelope pears, and just about all wild game, but particularly antelope with hoisin sauce and jalapenos. There's some kebabs and on the barbecue. It doesn't get any better than that. It makes you clamor for the next time you draw. That's for sure.
Well, that sounds good. I might have to get that recipe from you.
You betcha.
Thanks for coming in today, sharing your personal story about you and your family, your journey, your success with mountain goat, and inspiring people to get out and enjoy Alberta, all it has to offer. Don't be intimidated. Don't worry about the gear. Just make it happen.
It was my pleasure, Brad.
We hope to inspire people to reconnect with nature and appreciate where your food comes from by harvesting your own. For more information on getting started or to learn specifics about the Field to Fork experience, visit harvestyourown.ca and follow on Facebook and Instagram. Check back often for new material, recipes, and videos that are posted regularly. Please subscribe to Harvest Your Own podcast and take the time to rate and review the show to help us build a dedicated core of passionate hunters as our regular audience. Until next time, embrace the outdoors and all it has to offer. Thanks for joining us.